So let's go down this thing and I'll tell you what I was doing when Street Fighter came out. Fucking nothing. I could tell you very little about the 80s, but I was probably watching Star Wars and Transformers on repeat of a recorded VHS tape. Definitely wasn't hanging out in arcades at this point. 1988. Nothing much happened. A much more inferior version of the first Street Fighter game dropped on multiple systems. And it wasn't even as good as the arcade, which was already really bad. Final Fight gets released, which is interesting. Home computer version, that's a wonderful piece of artwork up there. What? 1990? This came out in 1990? I don't believe it. So I owned a copy of Street Fighter 2010 back in the day. This must have been somehow where before Street Fighter 2, and they just said, you know, screw it. We have a Street Fighter game that people kind of like, sorta. We'll just make this in that universe. And Ken was a scientist like 40 years in the future, and he would shoot fireballs, but he would be dressed in psycho future armor, beating up aliens, and he would teleport. I bought this game because it said Street Fighter on the front and it looked crazy. I was like, whoa, what is this shit? But that was after Street Fighter 2, so I'm kind of surprised this says 1990 on it, because Street Fighter 2 is in 1991. I think I bought this around 90, maybe 92, 93? But I think it was later than it came to the States. But yeah, I definitely got scammed out by this shit. Good job, Capcom, you got me. You got me. SF2. In 1991, I don't know if it came to a US by that time. Yeah, it definitely did. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 was big. Like, you saw it at 7-Elevens for the most part. You saw it in arcades. I think I would play Blanca and smash the shit out of the controller because it would give you electricity. And it was good. It was really good. Also, jumping in with the heavy kick button and then pressing down with the heavy kick button immediately after was the sickest combo in the world. That's what I was doing, but I was still very young at this point. 91? I was pretty young. 92, so the 16-bit version is what a lot of people played. I played the arcade version before it was out on SNES, I remember that. And then it came out on SNES and it was like incredible that the SNES version looked so close to the arcade version. And that was a huge, huge thing back in the day, was that arcade games were amazing looking. Console games look like butt. So that was incredible. I didn't have a Super Nintendo. That shit was expensive though. I didn't see any of this stuff. That's for sure. And then Super SF2 shows up. I think this is the arcade release of Super Street Fighter 2, and I remember seeing it in arcades and kind of being like, what the hell is... I remember the intro being really cool, because Ryu's sitting there posing and jumping up and down. So one of my favorite intros. But I actually owned this game on the console release, which was probably, let's just jump up here a bit. You know what? I guess that might have come out around the same time. That makes sense it was 1993 because this was the early days of the rating system. This game dropped on consoles and it had a teen rating, and I was like, whoa, this game's for teenagers. Oh no, oh yeah, that means it's gotta be crazy. It's for teenagers. And I got it on the Genesis, and believe it or not, the Genesis version of this game had some crazy shit to it, man. Like, you had to press start to switch from kicks to punches because there was only 3 attacks. But believe it or not, on that crazy ass old Genesis pad, I learned how to play Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2. I learned how to throw fireballs on my own. I remember the moment of realization that a fireball isn't just a down to forward motion. You actually have to roll your finger from like down to forward. And that was just an insane concept to me at the time. And then I later learned that to do an uppercut, it was just pressing forward and then doing a fireball, which is what I still do to this day. And I figured that out on a Genesis pad. So there was no way I was gonna be able to do that on arcade stick. No way in hell. I actually have a poster of this right outside my room. It's a Super Street Fighter 2 tournament battle, and it's the original one from like 93. I love that artwork. Very cool. So yeah, I learned how to play Street Fighter 2 technically on a Genesis pad, And I do remember, actually remember, on that Genesis horrible D-pad with its sharp edges, I gave myself blisters. Like I was ripping off the top layer of the skin of my thumb. And I had to stop that shit. Suddenly appears in the background of, wow, he totally is. That's funny. Life after the endings? Oh shit, that is really cool. That is really cool. I think I've seen these before somewhere. Anyway, 1993, 1994. The best fighting game movie ever made is created. Street Fighter: The Hollywood Film is released. A movie would tie in with 2 games to feature digitized graphics. Funny story, Street Fighter the movie, the game, would be in arcades all over the place. You would see it everywhere, but it would be right next to the alphas, it would be right next to Street Fighter 2 and everything like that. Nobody played it! Nobody ever played that shit. If you saw somebody playing, I didn't even know what the hell the game looked like because you never saw it being played. Nobody ever played Street Fighter 2 the movie, the game. It was just empty for its entire, I don't even know how they made a console version. I don't even know. But I still think Street Fighter 2 the animated movie is incredible. Like, you get to see Chun-Li's hoots. It's got KMFDM while, like, characters fight. It's insane. The American version is 10 times better than the Japanese version. 10 times better. It's so goddamn good. Alpha came out, and I remember when Alpha hit arcades. I remember just being confused. I was just like, Street Fighter Alpha, what the hell? What am I looking at? I never really watched a lot of Street Fighter 2V. I do know that Ken and Ryu go skinny dipping together, so that makes a lot of sense. Street Fighter 2 the movie, the game comes out. And, yeah, the console version of the movie, the game, there's a cool story of a guy on SRK like 20 years ago of a dude that was working on the development team to actually make the game good on the console version and not horribly busted. And yeah, they made it more like Super Turbo. And pretty much Street Fighter the movie, the game on PlayStation and Saturn run like Super Turbo. So they don't have all the crazy, hilarious jank that the arcade version has. Matt McMuscle's cartoon came out. And then Final Fight 3 came out, and they released probably 5 or 6 copies that nobody has anymore. Good luck finding that shit. But Alpha, I remember being really, really crazy because it was just so different looking. It was like cartoony in comparison to the other Street Fighter. And Street Fighter was already cartoony. This one was just like super cartoony. It was very different. I don't remember if I liked playing it though. Like, I think I liked Street Fighter 2 more at the time. But anyway, this is when everything changed. When Alpha 2 came out, Alpha 2 was super fun. Like, there was just something about it that really resonated. I didn't play a lot of Puzzle Fighter. My wife did, though. But from this point till, like, I'm gonna say maybe even 2003, Street Fighter Alpha 2 goes on to be my favorite Street Fighter game from, like, 1996, 1997, all the way to, like, 2002, 2003. It's just so goddamn good. I had it on PlayStation, I bought it on Saturn, and there's just something about the presentation of the game that was amazing. I think this artwork has a big part to do with it too. Like, I think this piece of artwork is so goddamn good. It's Street Fighter. Like, this, of almost any artwork that you can think of for Street Fighter, 2 things come to mind. Ryu posing in the darkness about to throw a fireball, and this shit of younger Ryu looking up to his eventual, like, future, which is Demon Akuma. I love it, man. I love it. It's so good. It's called Zero in Japan. Radically different art style. Characters were buff and very balloony. But I dig these concept arts. I dig these designs a lot. Something very mechanical about the way they're drawn too. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Big fan. It's just different looking. That's why Alpha 2 was so good. Uh-oh. Wow, Second Impact came out in 1997 as well. Holy shit, they must have really... So, nobody played this game, chat room. Like, when Street Fighter 3 New Generation came out, it had this logo of it just said 3. The cabinet artwork for this game just said 3. I hope it has it in here, but it probably doesn't. But essentially, we got a Street Fighter game that had Ryu and Ken and a bunch of weird assholes. And nobody liked it. Nobody liked it. It also did not feel very good to play. Oh, I want to see what the hell that is. Shit, these pictures aren't loading. So for the most part, this game, oh, these are Second Impact art. This game largely bombs like really hard. And I remember hearing a story from back in the developer days from Nishitani. Actually, not Nishitani. He might have still been around at this time. It was an old developer story that they location tested New Generation, but it didn't apparently have Ken and Ryu. And they got such a resounding negative response on the early location test that they actually added Ken and Ryu back to the game. So, yeah, it's a bizarre. It didn't do good. I remember a few people playing Second Impact, but not a ton. Some people did, but not a ton. Very interesting logo, right, with the pink. Yeah, this was the first introduction of Eurion. Akuma became a roster character. That's a great piece of Akuma art. So is this. I don't think I've ever seen this shit. This might be from an ending. And I love this shot. I love it. Power is so goddamn much, it's eating away his body. Look how sick this is. Probably the highest resolution possible here. Let's see how much we can zoom in on this. Yo, wow, that is the original artwork scanned in. Neat. Alex was largely the main character of these games too, and everyone was kind of bugged by that too. Nobody liked Alex at first. It was very hard to get people to like these games. And then Gem Fighter came out, and it was interesting. I didn't like Gem Fighter until a bit later, I'd say. Street Fighter Collections released, and no one bought that. This was some weird stuff on them. Rival Schools came out, which I pre-ordered. I was the only son of a bitch who pre-ordered Rival Schools at my electronics boutique. And it came with 2 discs. It came with an arcade disc, and it came with an Evo disc. And it wasn't Evo for Evolution, but it was Evolution, but not the tournament. You know what, never mind. It had just like more content, more story mode, stuff like that. Yeah, I was the only person that showed up that morning. I was the only person that pre-ordered that, the only person that pre-ordered Marvel vs. Capcom 1 on Dreamcast, and the only motherfucker that pre-ordered Marvel 2. Every time I would show up at the store before the place was open. I was very young, by the way. And nobody else pre-ordered this stuff. I spent all my money on it. Anyway, 1998, Alpha 3 is released, and everybody loves it. Street Fighter Collection 2 comes out. It shows up on PlayStation and Saturn. Street Fighter 02 is released? AKA Street Fighter 02 Alpha. Okay, so this would largely be gone beyond to know. Yeah, Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold. This is the one that introduced Cammy as a playable character, where they would first make the Cammy sprite in the Alpha style. You know what? No, actually, this is wrong. That would have been in, they took the Cammy sprite from X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and they stuck it into Alpha 2 and called it Alpha 2 Gold. So, there you go. Alpha 3 home versions are released, and still to this day, the best version of Alpha 3, I mean, outside of Street Fighter Alpha 2, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max on PSP, I think the most arcade-perfect version of Alpha 3 is technically the Saturn version with a RAM expansion card. And that one is... We've played it a few times. It is really, really good. It has a big-ass roster as well. It has, like, the extra character. It's technically Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, I think is what it was called. And, I didn't play a lot of it. I won't lie, I was not actually a big fan of Alpha 3 for some reason. That's probably one of these Street Fighter games I've played the least out of almost all of these, but everything else about Alpha 3 is amazing. Like the artwork, all this shit is so... I'm not a big fan of this though. This was the Dreamcast cover art. Not a big fan of that. But yeah, I love the character designs in this game, man. So much personality. Everything about Alpha 3, from its announcer to its stages to... It's great. It's just that gameplay-wise, I wasn't a fan. Something about it just felt a little off to me. So I stuck with Alpha 2. Just kept playing Alpha 2 whenever there was a chance to play a Street Fighter. And then in 1999, Third Strike comes out, and nobody cared. There was a very long period before Third Strike would actually become accepted as being like a big game, and it would take about a year. But I have heard from developers back in the day was, why did they make Street Fighter 3 Third Strike if Second Impact or New Generation were not successful? Like, why did they even do it? And their reasoning was there were several things they wanted to improve upon and characters they wanted to add. So this was back in the day when the budget for games and the way it was consolidated was a lot different than nowadays. So they literally did it because they wanted to. That was... They made Third Strike because they gave a shit. And it's gone on to be one of the greatest fighting games of all time. Largely considered to be... and I would say back in the day, there was this certain stigma around Third Strike which made me want to play it. Third Strike was like, you know how to play Third Strike? Like, holy shit. That game is so hard, it's insane. Like, the difficulty level on that Street Fighter game is so far beyond everything else. How are you even human? Like, that was the feeling that Third Strike kind of gave off back in the day. And this was before Evo Moment 37. That's why Evo Moment 37 was the way it was, is because that game was so tough to play. Like, I don't even know how you do it. Like, and that was largely why that moment is popular. But yeah, it launches and it's largely not super popular when it launches from what I remember. Final Fight Revenge, which is a hilarious fighting game that comes out on the Saturn, is really funny. Psycho Dojo comes out, which is a Dreamcast game, and Double Impact is released, which is another Dreamcast game. This had New Generation and Second Impact put together on one disc. It was neat. For a long time, if you wanted to play Third Strike at home, you had to wait till like 2000 for the Dreamcast version to drop. And the Dreamcast version was like not good. Like the Dreamcast version of Third Strike was off. Timing-wise, it was really off. Anyway, Street Fighter Alpha, the animation comes out. I think it's a movie, and it's not bad. I actually remember liking that one a lot, but it has a very much Street Fighter 4 story with Seth in the end, where it's just a guy that is sucking the power of fighters, and Ken and Ryu and Dan is in it, Sorta and Sakura. And there's a lot of butt and crotch shots everywhere in that movie. So try to pay attention to whenever there's a character that, like, is a female. For some reason, there's like 90 different angles of Chun-Li's static butt and crotch. It's really weird. It's notorious for that, but watch it. I think it's actually not bad. Third Strike comes out on Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure this is the Dreamcast artwork that was promotional. This is all promotional art that I do remember. I don't remember many of these, though. Holy shit. These are weird. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen these before. I've seen that one. And there's a few missing. Street Fighter 2X for Matching Service comes out on Dreamcast, of which I have never played. I mean, I've played that version because it was actually Super Turbo, and it was Dreamcast Super Turbo, and it was awesome to have it. But never played it online. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 also was online on Dreamcast, believe it or not. Ran like total dick's shit, but it was there. 2001 Alpha 3 Upper comes out, and Yoon, Eagle, and Maki. Huh. Then it wasn't the Dreamcast, I'm sorry, the Saturn version of Street Fighter Alpha 3 isn't Alpha 3 Upper. It's just like Alpha 3 Plus or something like that. Because I guarantee you, having Yoon and Eagle and Maki, no. They took those sprites from CVS 2, which they actually don't mention in here. They don't talk about the Versus games in here very much. So they essentially took the sprites they made for CVS 2 and they dump them into Alpha 3. to make Alpha 3 Upper, aka Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max for PSP. Anyway, Dreamcast gets Alpha 3 for online. And Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo Revival, which is a fucking GBA game. I remember this coming out. This game possibly has some of my favorite Street Fighter artwork of any of them. Just look at this shit. Get ready. Get ready. Oh my god. It's fucking amazing. And all it really was Street Fighter 2 Turbo on GBA. Yeah. This was cool. I like this game a lot. It was fun. It was like one of the reasons I actually got a GBA was to play this game. No, it wasn't Street Fighter 2, it was Street Fighter, it was Super Turbo. I love this shit. Oh my god, man, this artwork is... To me, this is like the best Street Fighter 2 artwork, technically, even though it came out way later. God, man. There's just something about the way it looks. I think it's perfect. It's just me, though. Yeah, I remember these. They actually stuck this artwork into the game a little bit, too. Yep, I love this shot of Ken. Holy shit. Relay. Akuma. Get your foreshortened foot out of here. Oh no, there's some missing that I really want to see. Yeah, man, this shit's sick. This shit is sick. I love it. Not many people played that though. Turbo Revival was kind of just out and there, and then it happened. So moving forward, nothing happens in 2002, and this is the beginning of the end for Street Fighter. This is after the commercial failure of the Street Fighter 3 series. Capcom essentially says we're kind of done with fighting games, so nothing comes out in 2002, and then they release. Finally, they release a version of Street Fighter 3 that's actually pretty good, which is Hyper Street Fighter 2 Anniversary. This has a version of Super Turbo that allows you to select any version of characters from, like, way back. You can select, like, Street Fighter 2 Ryu versus Super Turbo Sagat. I think that was in it. Anyway. And it also came with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike on it, and that was big. Like, that was huge. And the other big thing was that the game was going to have online on PS2 and Xbox. And suddenly, when it came out, PS2 version just didn't have online, and only the Xbox version had online. And this is the game I largely remember learning Third Strike on. I got myself an X arcade stick, because I just wanted to be good at Street Fighter 3, and I learned how to play online. And believe it or not, there'd be somebody that was consistently really good at the game that I would run into and would actually have a good connection, because the netcode this was like Gen 1 netcode. It was horrible. There was so much delay, it was insane. Same thing for CVS2, came out around the same time. And the player I would always run into is a guy named Cali Power. I'd never heard of him before. I just knew that he was very good at this game. And I fought him a lot back in the day. Like, a lot. Because the connection was almost okay. That was the equivalent of having like an 8-frame delay. It was the equivalent of an 8-frame delay. But I thought with this game actually coming out, I was like, yo, we're not gonna have to go to arcades and spend money anymore. We're just gonna be able to have our own version of a game and have the world available to us to fight each other online. This is gonna be insane. But we didn't know about delay or anything like that. We had no idea that delay was a thing. Or that how delay would even be fucking handled, or how distance or latency, any of that shit was just like over our heads completely in 2003. So when it came out and it ran like trash, it was a wake-up call. It was like, oh shit, maybe fighting games is actually hard to do online. And it wouldn't take a couple of years until what's it called? Wouldn't take a couple of years until couple of guys named the Cannon Brothers, who made this little thing called the Evo Tournament, would come up with a way to predict what a player was going to do and then simulate action. Some fucking how these guys, through the process of running into a whole bunch of games that just ran terribly online, they came up with this thing called GGPO. Stands for Good Games Peace Out. And they made their own client for it, which is still technically followed up with Fightcade to this day. So they made rollback netcode, which is ultimately what makes fighting games run good online. Pretty crazy, man. Anyway, this game comes out and it's a goddamn disaster. It's horrible. This game arrives and it's just the fucking worst. And this was Capcom's All-Stars game. This actually precedes this comes after another Capcom All-Stars game, I believe, that was an arcade game that was 3D and was 1v1, but didn't come out. Like, it had an arcade location test. There's still some footage on YouTube from way back in the day, but there was a game called, like, Capcom All-Stars that never came out. There was no ROMs of it, nothing. It had Strider in it, it had Alex, it had Alex in his bomber jacket. It was weird. But then they released this instead, which was largely just every character in the game was from previous games, and the only new character was this chick named Ingrid. She was this little anime schoolgirl. And the game played like trash! Characters, like, they got rid of the groove system from CVS2, and characters were locked to their playstyle, so if you wanted to play a character from the Street Fighter 3 series, only they would have things like Street Fighter 3 mechanics. It sucked, man. It just looked really bad, too. I don't like fighting Jam chat room. Game sucked out loud. So this is when the American version of Street Fighter 15th Anniversary came out, was here. Yeah, this is the one that brought Third Strike to consoles, that's right. This was the first release in Japan, and then this one, this confused me because this is I think they mixed this up. This is the artwork for the American version. Weird. Anyway, this is largely known as the Dark Ages, because the last good Capcom fighting game that they would have released, as far as like a new fighting game, would be Capcom vs. SNK 2 at around 2001. 3 years later, they released this pile, and it was terrible, and nobody played it. There you go. Then in 2005, Street Fighter Alpha Generations happens, and it's just a not as good version of this other Street Fighter Alpha movie, so yeah, you don't really need to watch that. Street Fighter Alpha 3 comes out for, finally, for PSP, but nothing else. Alpha Anthology comes out, which is a really cool version of all the Alpha games and Super Puzzle Fighter or Gem Fighter, and has Alpha, I think it's got Street Fighter Alpha 3 Hyper something, and it's a crazy version of the Alpha games. It's very fun. Final Fight Streetwise came out and everyone forgot. And then in 2007, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 came out. And I remember buying this for me and JJ, and she was whooping people's asses online. I actually liked this port a lot. I am shocked that Capcom still has done nothing with Puzzle Fighter 2 HD Remix. I cannot believe. I can't believe that they still haven't re-released this. Like, it's insane. And then, in 2008 was the first, like, I'd say before that, like 2007-ish, I remember hearing a lot of stuff about Street Fighter 4. And I was actually more excited for this game, Super Street Fighter 2 HD. I was more excited for than Street Fighter 4 at the time, because they were going to remake all the characters. However, I remember first hearing about this game way before this, like probably around 2006. And it took years for it to come out. It would get delayed forever. Because ultimately, the job of respriting every single character in the game was just huge. It was huge. But it came out, it ran pretty damn good online, and it still runs good online if you have it on Xbox or PS3. And then Street Fighter 4 comes out. So at this point in 2008, I don't even know what this mouse generation thing is. In 2008, I was already heavily competitive in Street Fighter 3. I would say I got competitive in Street Fighter 3 right around 2004 to 2005. And from this point forward, I was going to arcades, I was going to Ranbats, I was competing. I didn't have the money to travel because I was working full-time and going to school full-time, but any goddamn waking moment on the outside was me either playing Final Fantasy XI or Third Strike. And I played a lot of Third Strike from this point. So it was a solid many years. Mouse generation artwork. They don't have anything. But Street Fighter 4 comes out in arcades, and it was nuts. Super Arcade at the time, which was like 3 hours away from my house, I would drive to every single fucking night and just get no sleep for working the next morning to go out to Super, and there would be so many goddamn people in that arcade. They imported it from Japan, and they had it on not even an HD TV, it was on a CRT monitor, so the characters were really small. And I was super competitive, man. Like, I took all the experience I had from Street Fighter 3, and I didn't even know the faces of FGC people at the time. I only knew them by name, for the most part. And I would go to that arcade and spend as much time as possible, and I would turn my 75 cents it cost to play. I remember AI. Oh yeah, I remember AI. I took my 70 cents it cost to play, and I would go on 70 to, I'm sorry, it'd be about 40 to 60 game win streaks. Yeah, Arlith is probably where we met, and there would be this place would get the game, and then a couple months later, or about a month later, Family Fun Arcade got it, and then Denshin Arcade got it as well, and then AI got it, and it was everywhere. Like, if you had Street Fighter 4, you were fucking poppin', man. And my addiction was to go to arcades to play this game, and the arcade owners would set win streak limits where you could not win beyond a certain limit. So you had to, like, if you got 20 win streak, they'd have a little plaque thing, not a plaque, but like a thing on the wall where you would have your name put down if you won the win streak limit. So it was my goal to go to every single fucking arcade, to go everywhere to get my name on those plaques. Or, you know, just the lists or whatever. And all they gave you was like a free soda or some shit. It was the most basic, stupidest thing to be like, I gotta do it. But it was like Ryu walking into the sunset. I would take my fucking 1990 Nissan 240SX and drive wherever I could that had Street Fighter 4 to hit the 10 to 20 game win limit. And that was it. I got a free soda. But people knew my name. People knew who I was. I was that Ken guy. And that was about it. There's a funny ass moment of Peter and Gutex in the very early stages of the Street Fighter podcast talking about me, like, and some stupid shit I was doing with Focus Attack. It was funny, but I didn't even know who these people were. Like, I knew Gutex only as the blue Urion. That was it. I knew Dr. Sub-Zero only as the loud guy, like Sextaro and fucking Arlith. I probably never associated Arlith with being Arlith, who's in the chat right now, until way later. Until I didn't know the people I was fighting directly, because there was no videos. Like, there wasn't anything to actually, like... Anyway, Street Fighter 4 was really cool. That game came out, and it was a big deal, man. It was a huge deal. And then you had to spend $250 on an arcade stick. It comes out on home consoles. This terrible movie comes out, and it was great. Street Fighter 4 ran okay online. It ran better than most of the other games did, but not amazing. It was good times. But it didn't last for me. Like, Street Fighter 4, I'd say up until about 2010. Yeah, I thought Street Fighter 4 was good, but it wore kind of dry on me. Something about the gameplay just wasn't as interesting or engaging as Third Strike, and I had been playing Third Strike for a long time, but I was very competitive with early SF4. By this time, Super comes out, and I wasn't a fan. I was actually wanting them to change a lot about the game, because it felt like there were so many, like, 50-50s everywhere. Like, you just have to make a 50-50 guess here and there, and it was just like, ugh, hate this. And then this game came out, and it really didn't change much. Like, the core of the game was still the same. That artwork is awful. Like, I don't think it's good at all. Sorry. And then in the same year, the cabinets for Street Fighter 4 get updates. They actually got updates, and there were hidden characters in there that actually weren't in the promotional artwork anywhere. People figured out how to unlock through a small like bug / hack in the ROMs. People were able to figure out how to get Oni and Evil Ryu selectable in Street Fighter 4. And people were like, what the fuck? People were freaking out. Oh, they're up there in the top left and the top right. Nobody knew that shit existed. So people were making videos about it. Like, I was making videos about it. Like, this was back, I was already making videos for years on YouTube about Street Fighter 4 in the arcades. And then, interesting thing happened. The people that were making videos from the arcades took them home, uploaded them to YouTube, and boom! Everyone was getting their YouTube channels ripped off. Like, everyone's YouTube channel got giant strikes from Capcom because no one was allowed to show these characters yet. They were not officially revealed at all. And, like, holy fuck, it was insane. I did not put up my video, like, literally the day of, even though I was doing a whole bunch of cool shit with Evil Ryu and trying to figure out how to play him. I remember Pikachu Akuma and several people that were taking arcade videos back in the day got their asses, like, banned and had to fight their asses off to get their channels back. It was crazy. Anyway, Arcade Edition was cool, man. It brought Yoon and Yang back, but a lot of people hate it because it brought Yoon and Yang back. But it did improve a lot on Street Fighter 4. The supers in this game looked great. The Ultra combos from Evil Ryu, Oni, Yoon and Yang looked really cool. They looked really cool. And then, yeah, we're getting kind of modern here. 3D Edition comes out. It's actually fucking amazing looking, even if you still play that game. Third Strike Online comes out, and it's Third Strike Online Edition, which is probably still the best Third Strike it is, because it's an homage to Third Strike, and it still runs great, and we still play it to this day. Having Third Strike on this version of the game does not make me want to get rid of my PS3/360. Like, I still... After playing tonight, I still very much like Third Strike Online Edition, and I am going to do my best to pressure the Capcom guys as much as possible to get that game ported. Like, I would absolutely spend money again if they ported over Third Strike Online Edition. Like, please, man. All the extra stuff in that game is really cool. Anyway, 2012 happens. Here's a crazy thing. There's a mobile RPG called Street Fighter Cross All Capcom is released for mobile devices. It's got 500 characters from the Capcom universe. Let's make that a fighting game. Let's actually make that a real game, Capcom. That'd be cool. That sounds like what everybody wants. Ultra Street Fighter 4 comes out, and it ends up being my favorite version of Street Fighter 4. I think Red Focus is a lot of fun. I like the changes they made to the game. I like USF4 a lot. A lot. Puzzle Sprites comes out. This is an interesting game. Yeah, I don't know. Puzzle Spirits. I don't think it came out anywhere else but Japan? I might be wrong. USF4 comes out and it's cool. And then nothing in 2015. You know what they also don't mention? They don't mention crossover games. So Street Fighter Cross Tekken, CVS2, Marbles, they're not here. And then Street Fighter 5 is released. And, functionally, it's fine. But a lot of people, after playing the betas, where the game had a lot more freedom in its early development, kind of stifled me upon its release. I really wasn't excited when Street Fighter 5 came out, because I played so much of the beta that I liked a lot more than this version of the game. And I was pretty vocal about that. A lot of people were not happy with me, because they were expecting me to really like it. And I wanted to like it. I remember those first betas were so much fun. The game was super fun. And then the game comes out and I get a review copy and it's like, I'm like, I think you just play this game online and that's it. Like, there wasn't even any versus CPU. Like, you had to go to training mode to fight the CPU. It was very weird, man. I mean, that feels like it wasn't even that long ago, but in actuality, like, this shit was 2 years ago now. Over, like, maybe 2.5 years ago, almost. Yeah. Street Fighter 5 was a rough launch. Ultra Street Fighter 2 comes out. That game was fun. Game was stupid fun. I know a lot of people, I know probably a lot of Super Turbo heads probably don't like this game, but dude, Violent Ken and Evil Ryu were fun as shit in that game because they were so broken. I wish they made every character broken, but I really enjoyed it. I almost am kind of surprised how the hell that game didn't show up on this collection, because I liked it. I thought it was stupid fun for the little bit of time we played. You get one cross-up and you win! It was funny. And then 30th Anniversary comes out. And there you have it. I'd say I was competitive probably from 2000... Heavily competitive probably from 2004 up until probably around 2013, 2014, because I was pretty damn competitive with Killer Instinct back in 2013 and the early portions of 2014. So, yeah, my hardcore kind of competitive history, even though at like around 2011, it sort of died down because Marvel was out. And I was super competitive in Marvel for a while, but then Assist Me kind of took over my life. Yeah, I was up in there and playing all the time and going to as many things as I possibly could with whatever money I had from about this year to just before this year, or around this year. So I had about 10 fucking years, man. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, those days when Street Fighter 4 was out were magical. Like, there is a video of a few guys that I'll never forget that are just in a car, like 2 or 3 dudes, and the energy that they have in this video because they're about to drive to an arcade that has Street Fighter 4 for the first time, and there's a guy in the front that just has his cell phone camera or mobile whatever, and he's just sitting there at the wheel driving, and he's just, Street Fighter 4, son! Street Fighter 4! Street Fighter 4, son! And his friend in the passenger seat's like, ah! Street Fighter 4! Street Fighter 4! And they're just like freaking the fuck out. That is the epitome of how everybody felt when Street Fighter 4 came out. Like, that was me and my friends back. Street Fighter 4, son! Street Fighter 4, we're going! Like, that was how you felt every single time. And some of you guys will know what video I'm talking about. It's not a popular video by any means, but yeah. I think at 2008 I went to 2007 actually. I went to, oh, there's an interesting one. Yeah, 2007 I went to Comic-Con and to play Street Fighter 4 for the first time in the US. But I also went to this thing called the Street Fighter Fight Club, which was in the middle of LA, where they had a unique opportunity to play the arcade version of Street Fighter 4 way before it was out. Like, way before it was out. It was around, probably about early 2008, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say it was probably around 2008 was when that was, because it was something around July and August of that time frame. I'm gonna say it was 2008, the Fight Club thing happened, and it was really cool. It was super sick. You know what? And you know what? I have a relic. Hold on a second. So, back in 2008 or so, I worked at an office as a online gaming producer. And I had this backpack everywhere with me because it had my laptop in it and shit, and I had to work. But I remember getting some swag from the event and shoving it in my backpack. And I still, to this day, had never cleaned out the backpack. So it's got a bunch of shit in it. Anyway, this is barely legible, but they gave you a little swag bag when you went to this event because it was a limited event. There was only so many people. They gave you a bar of soap. And I still have it. So I don't know if you can barely make out the Street Fighter logo somewhere on there, but it's there. And this was the bar of soap that they actually gave you at the event as the Fight Club joke. Like, you could sort of see it. It's beat up because the bag has been tossed around for literally 10 years. and I still use it every once in a while, but yeah, like, it fucking, there it is. There it is, I still got it. That is my entire personal history of Street Fighter and how much it has been a part of my life for long fucking time. But yeah, and I think when it comes to Street Fighter in general, like some people, I think I like the brand of Street Fighter, the characters and the lore and something about the games a little bit more than some of the games directly. Because while my favorite Street Fighter is Third Strike, that largely breaks the mold of Street Fighter gameplay, and Street Fighter Alpha 2 kind of breaks the mold quite a bit too with custom combos and crazy bullshit. Yeah, there's very few moments in my life I could think about being more excited for something than Street Fighter 4's arcade launch and the ones that we had in the US. Holy shit, man. Yeah, there's very few moments in my life I can recall being more excited for a video game. So, it's good. It's good. These games are good.